Hi there, I'm Angela from Sleeping Bear Cabin Craft, and I want to tell you the lessons I learned from the first year of beekeeping. So one of the lessons I learned is there's no one way to do things in beekeeping. There are many books and you will talk to many beekeepers, but what I have found is a lot of times there's no one way to do things. There are things that work for different people. It can be depending on where they live, just kind of how they want to manage their hives. So I think that's important to know because that also means that you can do things the ways that makes sense for you. So you don't have to say, well, this person, they've done it for all these years. Maybe they have all the answers. Nobody has all the answers. There's a lot of trial and error in beekeeping, which could be not great for some people who kind of want to know what's going on all the time, but can also be kind of exciting if you're a person that likes challenges. So just know that there's maybe not the right way to do everything in beekeeping. So another thing I learned my first year of beekeeping, although this is probably goes without saying, is if you keep bees, you're probably going to get stung. I have always worn protective gear. A lot of the beekeepers that I know that have done it for a long time, they don't. Some don't wear anything at all. Some just wear a veil. Some wear the suit but don't wear gloves. I wear everything. And when I first started doing it at the beginning of the year, I did just about everything, or I thought I did everything. The girls found the vulnerability. It was my feet. So I had just been wearing regular tennis shoes and, long socks and then my bee suit. Well, they found my socks and they can sting through socks. So what happened is one girl stung and the other ones are like, hey, I found it, this is where you need to sting. And so I got about 8 stings that day. It was very painful. I had a reaction to it, so it wasn't very fun. But after that, I have started using rubber boots. So I have not gotten stung since then, but I also know that it is going to happen. It's part of the job. So, I just try to respect the bees. Hope that they're in a good mood and um, that's kind of my strategy, but I know that I'm going to get stung again. So it's just part of it. The next thing that I learned, and this is also one of those that's like, oh, of course, was that people like honey. So once you tell people that you're a beekeeper, they'll immediately ask if you have honey. So, of course, if you are a beekeeper, you know that you're not going to have honey right away. And a lot of people don't even harvest honey maybe their first year. So, you know, it's one of those things that now you're the honey producer. And it is pretty awesome when you can harvest honey. That is one of the things you'll know that people like honey. So another thing to think about is if you are a beekeeper, you need to keep bees. You don't need to have bees. So what this means is, it's nice to see the hive outside and see the bees coming, to and fro with their pollen and everything. But they are little creatures that do need some assistance from us. At least to be their most healthy. They don't necessarily need us, but to keep them healthy and happy. One of the things you have to do is you have to inspect them. Make sure that they have the supplies they need, whether that's honey or pollen or brood. You need to make sure that your queen is doing well. Also, you need to look to see if there's any pests. If you see varroa mites, small hive beetles, you need to know what you need to do, how you need to treat them so that they're healthy. You also need to look for swarms. They're going to want to swarm, and it's a natural thing, and it's actually a good thing because it's them wanting to reproduce. But you, as a beekeeper, want to monitor that so that if you don't want your bees to swarm, which you probably don't, you can do some things to prevent that. Another thing that I learned this year that I did not ever think about is that sometimes bees need to be fed, especially when there is a dearth and the sources of pollen are not out there. Towards the The fall is when I started feeding my bees, 1-to-1 sugar water. So these are things that I did not know. And if it is something that you don't know, it can actually get pretty expensive. Sugar is not cheap and they go through quite a bit. So that's another thing to keep in mind. So one of the fantastic things about bees is they make things. So bees are the only ones that make a product that humans eat, which is honey. And the other things that they produce, whether it's beeswax, propolis, pollen, all those things can be useful to people. So I would just say be inspired by your bees. And I know that I am. There are so many bee products that you can do, whether it is, cosmetics or lotions, candles. I make beeswax wraps. There are so many things that you can do with their products. So another way to be inspired by the bees is to actually invent things for them. So when you are working with your bees, maybe you'll think about something and say, I think it'd be really nice if, maybe I could feed the bees a certain way, or maybe I need to do something else a certain way. You can invent things. One of the things that we wanted to do is we wanted to have a top feeder with mason jars. Well, there wasn't anything exactly like what we wanted, so we made it ourselves. There have been several things that I have put together, inventions that I've created specifically for the bees. Now, when I say inventions, I'm not talking about something that's going to go to the patent office per se, but like if you see in behind me, there is a challenge or an issue that you see, it's how you address that. So, where my bees are located, there is a cold wind that comes through in the winter. So, to help my bees, I didn't necessarily need to insulate them, but I did want to help with a wind barrier. So, I wrapped them with tar paper, put a little bit of insulating foam as a windbreak, and so that's what I'm doing with them. So I hope you enjoyed the things that I learned. There are more that I'm going to actually think about putting together to do another video, but these are the first ones that came to mind. I hope you enjoy, and I will see you soon. Bye.